Our topic is landing on moon 1969. Introduction for the above is as follows. The Apollo 11 mission, which took place in 1969, was a historic milestone in human space exploration. It was the first successful mission in which humans landed on the moon and returned safely to Earth. The mission was partly of NASA Apollo program, which aimed to fulfill President John F. Kennedy's goal of landing an American astronaut on the moon and bringing them back by the end of the 1960s. On July 20, 1969, astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin made history by becoming the first humans to set foot on the moon, while Michael Collins remained in orbit around the moon aboard the command module. Astro Armstrong's famous words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," marked the moment when humanity achieved its greatest achievement in space exploration. Apollo 11 demonstrated the technological capabilities, ambition, and ingenuity of the United States, and it stands as one of the most iconic movements in modern history. The mission not only advanced our understanding of the moon but also captured the world's imagination, paving by the way for future space exploration endeavors. The Apollo 11 mission in 1969 is one of the most significant achievements in human history. It was the first successful crewed mission to land on the moon, and it marked a defining moment in space exploration. Here's a detailed look at the mission, its objectives, and its historic achievements. Background and context. The Apollo program was developed by NASA with the goal of landing humans on the moon and bringing them safely back to the Earth. The mission was part of the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. With the Soviet Union's successes in space, such as launching Sputnik and sending Yuri Gagarin into space, prompting the US to make lunar explorations a national priority. In 1961, US President John F. Kennedy famously committed the nation to landing a man on the moon before the decade was out, a goal that became the focus of NASA's efforts throughout the 1960s. The Apollo 11 mission launch date 16 July 1969, launch vehicle Saturn V rocket, landing date July 20, 1969 on the moon, return date July 24, 1969, mission duration 8 days, 3 hours, 18 minutes. Apollo 11 consisted of 3 astronauts: Neil Armstrong, commander; Buzz Aldrin, lunar module pilot; Michael Collins, command module pilot. The spacecraft was divided into two main modules. Command module CM Columbia. This was the spacecraft that orbits the moon, where Michael Collins remained while Armstrong and Aldrin descended to the lunar space. Lunar module LM Eagle. This was the spacecraft that carried Armstrong's and Aldrin to the moon's surface. The journey to the moon, the mission began with the launch of the Saturn V rocket from Kennedy Space Center on July 16, 1969. The rocket was the most powerful ever built at the time and was crucial to the success of the mission. After the launch, the spacecraft entered into Earth orbits and then performed a translunar injections TLI burned to set course for the moon. After a journey of about 240,000 miles over 3 days, the spacecraft entered lunar orbits on July 19, 1969. The command module and lunar module separated, and Armstrong and Aldrin began their descent to the moon surface aboard the Eagle. The moon landing. The moon landing took place on July 20, 1969 at 4:17 p.m. The landing site was in the Sea of Tranquility, a relatively flat region on the moon. As the lunar module descended, Armstrong encountered some challenges when the computer guidelines system directed him towards a rocky area, forcing him to take manual control to steer the spacecraft to a safer landing. The lunar module landed with only about 25 seconds of fuel remaining in the tank, and Armstrong's famous words were broadcast to Earth. Houston Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. First step on the moon. After landing, Armstrong and Aldrin prepared to exit the lunar module and step into the lunar surface. At 10:56 p.m., Neil Armstrong became the first human to step foot on the moon. His historical words were, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind."
So, during their time on the moon, Armstrong and Aldrin collected 47.5 pound means 21.5 kilograms of lunar rock and soil samples, which they have returned to Earth for the analysis. They provided the insights of moon composition, geological history, and the potential for shore exploration. Amongst them, they have left behind their very significant instruments, including the seismometers to measure lunar earthquake and rotophotometer, which reflects light back to the earth and still used today to measure the moon distance from the earth. The success of Apollo 2011 has profound the culture and political significance. It demonstrates the technology capabilities of the USA and renewed the nation leadership in the space exploration. It symbols the American intelligence, ambition, and the scholarship. It also inspired generations, the scientists, engineers, and dreamers to pursue the careers in space and science exploration. So, we will talk about the returns that they have returned to Earth. After their moonwalk, Armstrong and Aldrin returned to the lunar module, which ascends from the moon surface to rejoin colonial in the commanding module in lunar orbit. The Eagle was a discard, and the crew perhaps their the return journey to Earth. On July 2024, 1969, the Apollo Crew 11 splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean about 13 minutes after re-entry. They were immediately picked up by the aircraft carrier, and astronauts were quarantined for the period of time to ensure they had not brought any back harmful lunar provenance. Although none were found. The success of Apollo 11 not fulfilled the President Kennedy's vision but also paved the way for the subsequent lunar exploration. The Apollo mission continued until Apollo 17 in 1972, which marked the last time humans visit the moon. While no human have returned since, this achievement of Apollo 11 remains the cornerstone of the human space exploration. In recent years, there has been renewed interest in returning humans to the moon through programs like NASA MTREES, which aims to land the next man and first woman on the moon by the mid 2020s. Apollo 11 missions continue to inspire space missions from robotic exploration to human inspire for the space colonization. Now we will see some achievements that Apollo 11 has done. The Apollo 11 has done the achievements like the key achievements like the successful crew mission land on the moon, the first human to walk on the moon, Neil Armstrong and Aldrin, the scientific experiment, samples collection, equipments, collection development, and Luna on the lunar surface. The first American flag landed on moon. The first footprints that are touched on the moon. Apollo 11 is not marked also the peak of the space race, but also symbolized the trump of human ambition, power, collaboration, and the potential for the future exploration beyond our planet. And in 2012 August, Neil Armstrong death has been get. We know that Neil Armstrong died in year 2012. The President Obama tell that he was the hero in American history, and also these things can inspire the future generation. The Apollo 11 mission has inspired the generation of scientists, engineers, and astronauts. The mission achievements they have motivated young people to pursue the career in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The mission, the legacy, continued to inspire the new space mission from robotic exploration to human inspiration for the space colonization. It also tells about the continued exploration and the future plans. The Apollo 11 mission marked the beginning of the human space exploration. Since then, there have been numerous robotic missions on the moon, Mars, and beyond. NASA admires the program for the samples aiming to return humans to moon by mid 2020s and establish the sustainable presence on the lunar surface. Private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin also working towards establishing the human presence in space with the plans for the lunar and the Mars mission is near for the future. And lastly, we will see the post-mission analysis and the celebration. After the successful returns of the Apollo 11 crew was through the analysis of the mission data and the sample, the lunar rock and the soil sample brought back by the astronomer and Aldrin provide the invalid insights into the moon composition and geological history. The mission success and celebrates worldwide with the astronaut being hailed as a hero. They greeted with the ceremony and interviews, sharing their extraordinary experience with the public. This was the successful landing in 20 July 1969 from Apollo 11 by the two astronauts named Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin.